Hello, everyone, and I am back with another story. This one is a two-chapter one, and I will decide if I want to read both of them right now or not after I finish the first chapter. This one is called TommyInnit and the No Dads Club by finchtub, and let's start. I do have my dog in the room with me, so hopefully he doesn't cause any trouble. Okay, Loki? Let me read the summary and then we'll start. I don't want him to be my dad, Tech. I don't like that, Tommy pouted. Tubbs says that Slatch his dad because they live together. I don't live with him. I live with you. Why can't you be my dad, Tech? Techno's face did that whole scrunching up, possibly constipated thing again, and Tommy was starting to get really worried about him. I can't be your dad, Theseus, Techno said, and it felt like Tommy's entire childhood dreams were being crushed. An exaggeration, but now that he wasn't in the No Dads Club, he really didn't want to go back. It's around like Father's Day, so okay, chapter 1. The teachers at the camp were super nice today, which was a bit strange. Usually they complain about how energetic and loud Tommy is, but it was nice nonetheless. All the kids were doing a special activity, and instead of joining in on what looked like arts and crafts, Tommy got to sit in the play area and play with Miss Clementine. It was fun. Miss Clementine was really good at doing the voices, and when the storyline of the world they had created together ran a little flat, she was always ready to add a bit more thrill. They waged wars and built nations all while everyone else lamely colored cards across the room. When all the kids were done with their crafting, Tommy got to go back to hanging out with Tubbo. He asked what they were doing while he was playing, and Tubbo shoved a brightly colored card into his hands. Tommy observed it in awe, before trying his hardest to read the font. He was really good at reading. At least that's what Techno said. It's just that Tubbo's handwriting was really hard to read. What's Father's Day, Tubzo? He asked, hanging the card back. It's a day when you celebrate your dad. At the look of confusion on his best friend's face, Tubbo added, You know, I call Slat as my dad because he takes care of me and I live with him. Tommy nodded as if he understood. Sure, he had met Slat before when he dropped Tubbo off at his place for a playdate, but he didn't really get it. Tommy wasn't entirely sure he had a dad. That was probably why he didn't have to make a card with everyone else. Miss Clementine probably sat with him because she didn't have a dad either. Maybe they could form a club together. A no dads club! That could probably be a lot of fun. Tommy liked playing Miss Clementine a lot. Stopping the thought entirely, because dads didn't seem all too important now that Tommy had solved the mystery. He jogged Tubbo towards the building blocks where the two of them played until Tommy's name was called. Looking up, Tommy saw that half the kids who had been there before were gone, meaning it was likely pickup time. He waved bye to Tubbo before rushing to the front. Technoblade was standing there awkwardly before he spotted Tommy and made his way over to the blonde and picked him up in greeting. Hey, little Theseus, how'd it go? It was fun. I got to sit with Miss Clementine because the other kids are making cards for their dads. I'm thinking of making a no dads club. Do you want to join, Tech? Techno's face got all squeezed up with Tommy's words, as if he had bitten into something really sour. Do you have a dad? 'Cause you can't join if you do. That's why it's just me and Miss Clem right now, because we didn't make cards with everyone else. How about, Techno started, walking toward the ice cream shop across from Tommy's daycare, we go get a treat. Tommy cheered, and for the second time that day, he pushed the whole dad situation to the back of his brain. It wasn't until later that evening, as Tommy was sitting at the table watching Techno place dinner on the table, that the blonde remembered. Tubbo said that Slat was his dad. Techno paused where he was pouring Tommy's drink before turning to face the kid. Why don't I have a dad, Tech? Techno sighed, sitting down across from Tommy. You do have a dad, kid. Tommy's eyes widened at the news. This is going to be bad news for his reputation at the No Dads Club. He'd probably have to leave the club to Miss Clementine. He really hopes that she can find other members. He would really hate for her to be alone. How come I don't know him? Tommy asked, reaching for his fork. Techno made baked potatoes. Although the man made his specialty so often that it was referred to as a specialty, it was an absolute staple for Tommy's happiness. You do know him, Tommy, Techno drawled before sighing. You know, the picture of the blonde man that looks kind of like you in my room? He asked, and Tommy shook his head in agreement. Techno really liked that picture, so much so that he taped it to the backside of his bed frame and wouldn't let anyone look at it. The fact that Tommy saw it once was a pure coincidence. He wasn't snooping. That's your dad. Tommy scrunched up his nose, trying to make sense of Techno's words. That's your dad, though, Tech. Techno laughed, although it was hard for Tommy to hear the humor behind it. If anything, Techno seemed a little bitter about it. Yeah, kid, we have the same dad. The blonde paused momentarily at the information. Having the same dad as Techno would make them brothers. That was kinda cool, but it wasn't really what Tommy wanted. I don't want him to be my dad, Tech. I don't like that. Tommy pouted. Tubb said that Slat's his dad because they live together. I don't live with him. I live with you. Why can't you be my dad, Tech? Techno's face did that whole scrunching up, possibly constipated thing again, and Tommy was starting to get really worried about him. I can't be your dad, Theseus, Techno said, and I felt like Tommy's entire childhood dreams were being crushed. An exaggeration, but now that he wasn't in the No Dads Club, he really didn't want to go back. Tommy's face must do the whole scrunching up, possibly constipated thing too, because Techno looked a little concerned. Tommy watches in confusion as Techno stands up and makes his way to the blonde's side of the table. Tommy turns around in his chair so that he's facing Techno properly. The man squats down so he's at face level with Tommy. Why not? Tommy asked quietly, something not even he was aware he could be. I don't even know the picture guy. I know you tons, and why not? Techno leaned forward, cupping his face, which was something he only did when Tommy was sad. And even though he wasn't sad, because he was a big man, Tommy leaned into the touch. That's just not how it works. This is the exact moment Tommy knew it was time to bring out the waterworks. It was a foolproof plan. It mumbled, oh no, from Techno made the kid know his plan was working perfectly. Don't cry, Thies. It's okay. I want you to be my dad. Maybe he was pushing it with the puppy eyes he was sending, but he was going to get what he wants no matter what. Please. Techno sighed before pushing their foreheads together. You're a pain. The pink-haired man wiped a few tears from the kid's face before pulling back, so that brown eyes met blue. I'll be your dad if you really want me to, Techno said begrudgingly. Tommy's face broke out into a wide smile. The No Dads Club was no longer a part of the great TommyInnit's life. Chapter 2. For as long as anything can be relevant for a toddler, it's always just been Techno and Tommy, just the two of them, doing their daily life things and such. It was fine. It never really meant to be more. Never had to be more. Techno loves Tommy enough to let the kid have more. At some point, there was more. A mother and a father, 3 kids, a family. Techno looked back on these moments, ones where Tommy could barely do more than breathe and cry, and where Wilbur hadn't fallen apart and fallen away, fondly. Their mom had passed before Tommy was old enough to even crawl, and Phil had ditched pretty early on. For a while, Techno and Wilbur held out hope for the blonde man coming back. He wasn't going to. Somehow, Wilbur knew this fact better than his twin. Wilbur had always claimed to be older, so that's probably what his pessimism could be chalked up to. He was the first to reach the stage of rivalry earned teenage angst. By the time Tommy's baby teeth started growing in, both kids had given up on their father. Sure, the man came home on occasion, but never long enough, and he certainly never made a habit of talking to anyone in the house. It hurt Wilbur the most, Techno supposes. Seeing as soon as the brunette had turned 17, he followed in their father's footsteps and fled from the Flaxshire family. Sure, it had hurt at first. It still hurts. But at the time, Tommy was the only thing that really mattered. Technoblade had spent every single moment since his mother's death raising Tommy. His father was a coward, and Wilbur was... He still wasn't sure what Wilbur was, but it was hard to think about it. So now, at the age of 21, Technoblade is a dad. He's coping. Maybe. In a way, he had been Tommy's dad for years. But there was something about the blonde asking, practically pleading, for Techno to be his dad, because he didn't know jack shit about Phil that made it a solid concept. It's nice, in a way, that his work is recognized through a title. It also hurts, burns right through the smeared remains of his childhood. It's a wonderful job to take care of Tommy, but deep down, Techno knows he shouldn't have to. He hopes that in some foreign universe, there's a him who doesn't have to raise Tommy, who gets to live beside the blonde boy as a brother. He hopes, prays, that there's a world where he gets to grow up properly before having to help someone else grow up. Though, as much as it hurts and burns and makes Techno wish for a different reality, raising Tommy is one of the greatest things he thinks he'll ever do with his life. He doesn't mind giving up everything that could have been given to his brother, that could have been to give his brother, his kid, the best life he can. Every day that Tommy is the happiest he can be, is a fantastic day in Techno's book. And apparently, it's a fantastic day when he goes to take Tommy up from daycare. There's a blinding smile on the boy's face that makes him look like the sun. Tech! Tommy shouts enthusiastically before jumping into the man's arms. Techno falters a bit at the weight shift, but regains his balance quickly. Maybe he should start going to the gym. He doesn't know when he'll find the time to do that, but he has to find a way to still be able to pick Tommy up no matter how big he gets. How was your day, Runt? He asked, starting the trek back home. The kid was practically bursting with enthusiasm, and Techno couldn't help but smile along with his child, son thing. Excitedly, Tommy wiggled his way out of Techno's grip. As soon as his feet were flat on the ground, the blonde started practically bouncing around. It was so much fun, Dad! Tommy cheered, racing ahead a bit. There's this new kid, and he sucks at tag, even though he's really super tall, so me and Tubb decided to let him be a part of our group. So you made a new friend? Techno asked, taking larger steps to catch up with the kid. Tommy nodded with such vigor that for a moment, Techno feared his head would fly straight off his body. What's their name? Rambo. They have a silly name just like you. In spite of the clear Techno smiled widely at the connection. However, the smile dropped from his face at Tommy's next words. Dad, why is there a car here? Did we get a car? Looking up, Techno could see Phil's shitty truck sitting in the driveway. He grabbed Tommy's hands, pulling him back from where he stood a few paces ahead. Theseus, he started slowly, you remember when we talked? You know about me being your dad, but also how we have, Phil? Tommy nodded and Techno smiled, hoping it came off not as bitter as it felt. That's him, okay? When we get inside, I need you to, I don't know, go to your room if you feel uncomfortable at any point, okay? Okay, Tommy replied, squeezing Techno's hand slightly. Phil hadn't come around in such a long time that Techno was just kind of hoping the man had forgotten about them. Techno sent a small reassuring smile to Tommy's way before opening the door. They were met with the smell of what was probably meant to be food, but honestly just made Techno want to choke on the account of how smoky the air was. A head poked from behind the wall that separated the hall from the rest of the house. Kids! Those cheered, and Techno wondered how impractical it would be to fall into pieces and melt into the floor just at the sight of his father. It's nice to see you two. Techno, you've gotten so tall. Techno hadn't grown in years, but then again, he can't probably remember the last time Phil had visited. What are you doing here, Phil? Techno's question seemed to set things in motion. Phil stepped out from behind the wall so that he was fully visible, and Tommy stepped behind Techno, probably hoping to melt into the ground just as the pink-haired man had himself wished. What? Is it such a crime for a dad to want to visit his kids? I saw Will not that long ago, and I figured it was time to check up on my other sons. Techno's head reeled at the thought of Phil visiting over. He hadn't so much as heard from his twins since the brunette left, but apparently Phil knew where he was. He didn't have much time to think it over seeing Phil's gaze had finally made its way towards Tommy. Techno could feel the way that the kid tensed behind him. You can't just barge in here like that, he said, forcing the attention off of Tommy. Phil scoffed at the statement, likely about to start spouting shit about he technically bought the house, a rant he'd go on every time Techno and Wilbur, when he was still here, mentioned the neglect of just overall shittiness of the man's actions. I have worked hard to get us to this point without you. You do not get to act like you're entitled to a role you haven't played since Mom died. Phil's shoulders hitched slightly, and Techno reveled slightly at how small he looked. Dad, Tommy whispered, though it sounded like he was screaming in the silence that had fallen after Techno's words. Phil tensed at the name, as if he was worthy of the title Techno had earned by being everything Phil hadn't been. Dad, I want to go to my room. You said I could go to my room. Phil's eyebrows furrowed at the statement, obviously confused about why his biological son was talking to him about something he had no clue about. Techno couldn't wait to rock his world. Couldn't wait to watch in pure delight as Phil put the pieces of the puzzle together. Of course, Theseus. You can go wait in your room. This won't take much longer. The look on Phil's face was truly as satisfying as Techno thought it would be. The pink cat waited until he heard Tommy's door shut before speaking again. You're not wanted here, Phil. We are clearly fine without you. Your sporadic visits only serve to fuck up things I've established for us here. He called you Dad, Phil said, still shell-shocked. Why would he call you Dad, Technoblade? Techno scoffed at the genuine-sounding confusion in the man's voice. Somebody had to step up, and you clearly weren't going to fucking do it. Listen, you might have had some vague idea in that small head of yours about who you are to us and what you're allowed when it comes to Tommy. But let me tell you, whatever you're thinking is wholly and entirely incorrect. Tommy is more my kid than he ever was yours, and there's no room for you in our lives. So kindly, if you could fuck off and never return, that would be appreciated. Some form of pained look that Techno could care enough to analyze found its way to Phil's face. I guess I'll get out of your hair then, he said, dejectedly, sounding like a kicked puppy. And Techno would never personally kick the puppy, but this shit was far better than therapy. Who needs to heal and grow as a person when you could just call your dad out on his shit? I want you out of my house as soon as possible, Techno said before walking away from the conversation. When you do bad bitch things, it's probably best to walk away before your confidence depletes and you have a mental breakdown, right? Making his way to Tommy's room, he took a breath to ground himself. He knocked on the door 4 times, 3 quick knocks followed by a softer one. Tommy opened the door, peering into the hallway behind Techno before motioning for the man to join him in the room. I don't like him here, Dad. I only have enough time to make 1 card during Father's Day coloring, I think, Tommy said seriously as if he was discussing the fate of the universe. Techno cracked a smile, the first genuine one since the walk home. He's leaving, kid. He just got a little confused, that's all, he said reassuringly. Tommy nodded. That makes sense. Rambo gets confused sometimes too. It's different though because he has a condition. Oh, did I tell you about Rambo? His brain's all fried, I think. Or at least that's what Tubbo said. But Tubbo doesn't know his left from his right. They talk about Tommy's new friend until Techno hears the front door shut. Then they move the discussions to the kitchen while Techno cooks dinner for the 2 of them, while simultaneously trying his hardest to air out the smoke. Tommy talks about all different types of cows he saw in a book. In the end, it's just Techno and Tommy, just the 2 of them, doing their daily life things and such. It was all either of them could ask for, a son and his dad, content enough with just themselves. That is it. I hope you all enjoyed this. Let me go to the top so you can see the name and thing again. Remember, none of this is mine. Only the reading out loud is mine. That's my voice, so it's mine. Don't forget to go on AO3 and support this creator and all the other creators I will do in the future and the ones I've already done, which is Artemis_Venus and finchtub. This is called TommyInnit and the No Dads Club. Please go support them, and I really appreciate them letting me read this out loud for everyone, you guys. And do not forget to subscribe and hit the like button down there. and I hope y'all have a good rest of your night, day, evening, whatever it is right now. Yeah. Bye.